what's up, my friend? Welcome back to the MindShift podcast. This is your host, Darrell Evans. I'm excited to have you here today for my chat with my man, Sean Malone. He is the co-founder and CMO of a company called FlowChat.com. But let me tell you something. This guy's been in software for a minute. What they're doing at FlowChat is redefining the way that people use their direct messages or the DMs for business, right? Typically, they work with agency owners who are looking for really effective social selling systems. But whether you're an agency or not, listen, DMs is where it's at today. If you're paying attention to the algorithm on Instagram and Facebook and all these platforms, the algorithms are moving to private community DMs. So you want to pay attention. Let me tell you what he's done in his past. 8 companies. 2 of the first 6 did 6 figures. Let me get it right. The first 2 companies did multiple 6 figures. The next 4 hit multiple 7 figures. And his last 2 did over 10 million a year in sales. And he projects that FlowChat will be the first company he's had that did over 100 million a year. Sean, what's happening, dude?
Hey, Darrell, I'm so excited to be here, man. Like, obviously, we live in kind of the same city here, and it's just really cool to connect with somebody amazing like you. And you've done so much as well, and you've been in the game for a minute too, and your recognition needs to be recognized as well, dude. Like, it's just really refreshing to connect with someone like you. So thank you for having me. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it, right? So be proud of yourself is what I'd say.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I appreciate you saying that, Sean, and I really appreciate that. Listen, let's jump right in and give these people some backstory, right? So, first of all, some people have trouble getting one company started and getting to a 6-figure or multiple 6-figure number. Let's just jump right into some nitty gritty ideas. What does it take to start multiple companies? Let's leave the whatever you might say about ADD and serial entrepreneurship out of it, right? Like, you obviously are crazy.
No doubt, no doubt.
You clearly have the crazy bug. And, no disrespect to crazy, but, being serious, like entrepreneurship is hard. But why 8 companies? Like, what does it take to start 8 companies when most people are struggling with one?
What does it take? Somebody once asked me, just so everybody's listening here, like, my background is I cut my teeth when I first came out of college in sales. Like, that was the thing. And so just a quick backstory, and I'll dive into that. Like, I came out of college and I had one question on my mind, and that question very simply was, how do I make a boatload of money? And I went to my dad, because he had an import-export cookware business. And he said to me, you want to make a lot of money? You got 3 choices. And I was so excited because I was like, oh, I can whip a multiple choice question. Like, what's the answers? And he says, are you a CEO? And I'm 21, just out of college. And I'm like, no, I don't even know what those letters mean, Dad. Like, that's not me. And then he goes, okay, number 2, are you an entertainer? I thought to myself, I was like, well, I don't sing and I don't dance, and I'm not an entertainer. And he goes, okay, well, you better go learn sales. And so this is how like my whole trajectory, and I'd been working in his shop for a lot of years, and I saw him work his tail off, and that's where I kind of got the work ethic part from. And he was an entrepreneur, crazy one as well, multiple businesses and other things. So I think it was a little bit inheritance of that, but then also I started sales and I was really bad at it, and it took me a long time. We can go into that story if you want, but I don't think that's really super necessary. But the where I got to was I had a couple of breakthroughs, and I realized that sales is a learned skill. And then I was like, oh, if I just study and I practice and I learn from people that are really good at this, I can probably take their framework and employ it in my own world, and that will work. And so I got into sales and I started making a lot of deals. And for me, when I moved into entrepreneurship, I saw these guys. I had taken this electronics manufacturing company that I did not own as a sales rep. I went from $3 to $38 million in revenue in 9 months for them as a sales guy. Like, I was the main guy that had like driven the growth. And I see the guys that own the company going to the bank and getting loans for 50, 60, $100 million to like do expansion projects and all these crazy things. And I was like, I'm smarter than those guys. Like, I could do it myself better. And so my move into entrepreneurship was, I'm just going to go do it better, right? That was probably my ego talking at the time, right? I mean, that's the thing. But yeah, so back to your question, like that drew me into purchasing into my first business, which was here in Las Vegas. Or my bigger one, I should say. Started a few small companies in college and things. But somebody once asked me, they said, Sean, how do you become a professional salesperson, like the best sales guy or the entrepreneur? And I said, there's really not one thing that you can do. There's 3. And the first one was, you got to have conviction. So if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to solve a problem for somebody else, you better be convicted that you do whatever it takes to go and solve that problem for other people. Right. So that was the first big thing that I was like, you got to have conviction. Now, if you don't have conviction, it's okay. Right. If you're listening to this podcast, here's how to get it. Pull out a piece of paper and write down all the reasons why you're not sold on your own product or service or offering or business. And then try to sell yourself. If you can't sell yourself on those few questions, take it to a mentor, a coach, bring it to Darrell, bring it to me, and we'll help you to sell yourself on your own vision so you can boost your conviction level. So that's number
Mm,
one.
mm.
Number two, you want me to go on? You want me to stop? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
is
I
that?
mean, let me throw 2 cents in on that. I love
Yeah,
that word
please, please,
conviction. I
please.
use the word obsessed. Like I say, entrepreneurs obsess over their customers' problems, like over solving their customers' problems. And I think you just put it a different way. It's the same conviction, right? You've got to have conviction that what you're bringing to market is going to meet a need that the
Mm-hmm.
market has. And I love what you said though, because so often the entrepreneur themselves, it's interesting, and you could speak to this perhaps from your perspective, but sometimes the entrepreneur gets so caught up in the minutia of the details and they forget the part which you talked about, which sales is a learned skill. Everybody hates to say, oh, I hate salespeople. Oh, I hate selling. Wait a minute. You've been selling since you were an infant, asking for the lollipop at the grocery store and the ice cream after dinner, and telling them you don't want to eat the vegetables, you just want to eat the rice or whatever that might be on the plate. You've been selling since you were a kid. But as an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to sell, and selling is a learned skill. But don't misunderstand the fact that that is that conviction. Otherwise, you just can't. It doesn't make sense in starting a business. If I wasn't obsessed with business growth and seeing companies do better and perform better and grow in a competing market, I'd never do what I did. I love that first tip. What's number two?
Yeah. So number two, and likewise, I think you're right. If you're not obsessed or you're not 100% convicted about your what you do, you're not going to get out of bed in the morning, and that's the big thing, right? So if you find yourself dragging out of bed every morning because you're not completely obsessed or convicted about the thing, do that exercise. Pull out that piece of paper and write down why you don't tap dance to work every day. You should. I do. I know Darrell does as well. So, and anybody can get it. It's not hard to do. Just write it down and figure it out, right? Get a coach, get a mentor, somebody that can actually help you walk through that stuff. Number two is, I can teach somebody comes to me, Sean, can you teach me to sell? Yes, no problem. I can do it in less than a weekend. I can give you the frameworks that have closed hundreds of millions of dollars in a weekend, and I can give it to you. And here's the problem: consistency is number two, right? If you don't have reps at the plate to practice sales and practice frameworks, you'll never get good at it. And so this
Amen.
is why my vocation is communication. Like, I'm a communicator, that's my number one thing. And I do it through the vocation of high ticket sales and the lost art of prospecting. Everything else in my life has branched from those two places. And again, you can learn the framework from an expert in a weekend or less, right? We
Right.
have a course. It's really simple to consume it in like one day. But if you don't have a consistent flow of those people coming your way, where you actually try the techniques and master them and learn the science and then layer your art on top of that science to where you have a unique style, you're also not going to make it, right? So number
Well
two, I
said.
would say, is consistency. You got to have consistent flow of opportunity to test the
Mm.
thing.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like I'm standing here, got a bunch of books behind me. You're sitting over there, got a bunch of books behind you. All the books cost $15 on average on any platform that you could buy them on, but you can literally understand the literal sense of selling and the words, but nothing. It's just like shooting. It's just like any sport. You can't just get good at the sport. Now, you can visualize yourself making shots, but when the real game happens, if you don't have reps in the game and practice, so I think that's what you're articulating, and it's so true. And it's interesting, Sean. And could you, over the years, I've always said I've never really sold anything in my life. I've said now it's a sort of a contradiction in a sense, because what I'm trying to emphasize is the overcoming the mindset that a person has about trying to convince someone to do something they didn't want to do for your benefit. See, I think that's what people think sales is: convincing someone who didn't want to do that thing, but you convinced them to do it anyway because of your benefit. Instead of sales, the way I see it is I'm helping them bridge a gap to a problem they already want to solve with the solution that I provide. Therefore, it's not a sale. It's simply getting them to the point of saying, your problem meets my solution. Would you like our help? That's all I mean, that's a simplified way of doing it. But again, if I didn't have as many at bats, to your point, I love the idea of consistency. It's just fantastic. Let's go to number three.
Well, I want to hang on what you just said because I think it's
Go
it's
for it.
so valuable to hear this analogy. So think of the person that's closest to you, or maybe not necessarily married to your spouse or partner like this, but like a very dear and near friend, whether it be a mom, a dad, or sister, brother, or somebody that you just have in your inner circle. Now you
Mhm.
love them, right? There's no denying you have lots of love for that person. And let's say you just went out to this really cool restaurant and it was an amazing experience, and you're like, oh my God, I want you to go try that thing because it's really epic, and you're talking to this person. Now, why would you even say that? Right? Because you want them to experience the same amazing experience that you had, and you're doing it out of love. So I always
Mhm.
say to sell is to love, to sell is to serve, right? What you said is perfect,
Mhm.
right? I love this person. I see them having a problem in their business. It is my job and my moral responsibility and duty to serve them, to fix the problem because I love them. That's
Mhm.
why sales is valuable. You with
That's so
me?
good. So
Yeah,
good.
totally. And then number
So
three,
good.
this one is a total game changer. Look, persistence. So you got to have conviction, you got to have consistency, and you got to have persistence. Now, persistence is interesting, right? Understand when you go into business as an entrepreneur, you're going to get punched in the face, and it hurts and it sucks. And
A
sometimes
lot.
it'll push you into a deep dark place where you want to go have a bunch of drinks of wine or whatever, like, and just close the laptop and move on. But you got to understand, if you get knocked down on your back and you can see up, you better get up,
Come
because
on
it's
now.
when you fail is when there's no more business. That's
Mm.
the idea. Fail
I love
fast,
it.
fail forward, but just remember you are going to fail, and this is part of the process. I don't like the English language for this reason. They have one word, fail, right? In China or Chinese, they have like 30 words for failure. Like failure, I think in I don't know if there's 30, but there's a lot of them. I will say that like the people that grow the fastest learn from the things that have happened to them in the past. And so if you look at it as a learning experience versus a failure, it'll allow your mind to just kind of move forward. So again,
Yeah.
conviction, consistency, and persistence. And if you have those three things, you can branch into entrepreneurship and have success, whether it be one company, two, five, 10, however many. So I'd say.
Man, Sean, you're dropping bombs. Boy, we're only 10, 12 minutes into this thing. I love it. So, on that last point of persistence, I mean, it's so true. And I think a lot of times, and I'm sure you've done this and you recommend this to your clients, and that is sometimes you just have to get outside of yourself, because sometimes we take entrepreneurship and those learning moments, which you could call failures. I had to adapt the word early in my career, which is failure is an outcome that was undesired, but it is not your identity. See, it was an outcome. It's all it is an outcome that you didn't desire, but it is not your identity. So if you let failure become your identity, is when you do some of those things we talked about, which is stress, depress, drink, da da da, bad habits and things of that nature. And then we talk ourselves out of our dream, right? The key though is the dream is still there. Jim Rome said it this way, and I don't know if you're a fan of Jim Rome, but
Of
Jim Rome
course.
said if you find yourself on a course, if you find yourself on your path to your goal, but you find yourself off the destination, don't change the destination, change the path, change the plan, change the strategy. So
Mm-hmm.
we all get off course. Like we all get off course, right? I love that persistence and that whole idea of failure is. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So you've had a bunch of successful companies. What's one of your biggest failures as an entrepreneur?
Not setting myself parameters around one of my businesses.
How do you mean?
So when I first moved online in like 2016, and I know you've been online a lot longer than me, and I'm just so grateful to learn from you because you are, I think, a master. When I started in the online journey, I was we started with a network marketing company. It was we sold water systems for home use. So there's a big like box, like a kitchen, like a coffee pot size system that will sit next to your sink. And you plug it
I
onto
remember
your
seeing those. Yeah.
sink, and then it'll electrolyze the water. So it's like a high alkaline with electricity. It's kind of like going back to the blue zone concept. I'm super kind of like health hacker nut kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So the
I'm with it.
product I loved, right? And so it was this MLM that was really awesome. And when we started, like I knew sales when I came into the opportunity, but I didn't know marketing. And so when I jumped online, I saw a paid ad and I was cold traffic. And I watched this system. I went down, I invested money, and then I went through this whole process of upsell, kind of hurt, never felt it before, but it was like, oh, $10,500 later, now I have this whole little business for myself.
Hmm.
And I was like, I can't I don't know anything about marketing, but I know a lot about sales. And if this marketing thing can bring eyeballs my way, like I'm sure I can convert them. And that's exactly what happened. And so we started using, it took us a long time. right? So going back to persistency and getting punched in the face, I personally think if you can go to, feedback, criticism, critical feedback and criticism from them, and you can tune your offer so that they'll buy it, cold traffic, then it'll work in every other market everywhere. I think that's the hardest and the first place to start. And I mean, I'm sure you have input on that. But just to kind of fast forward on this. So like, I started building this thing and it worked. It really worked well. And we started building this huge, I built a sales team of 35 people and we did, $12 million in our first year. And like, it started going crazy. And about
Mm-hmm.
halfway through that, some of the clients that we had said, "Hey, you guys need a software product." And I'd never built software before. And so I was like, okay, well, we'll try to go build a software company. And we found these guys that would facilitate helping build a software platform. And we built one. We spent $1 million on it, and crazy amount of money to build this really epic software platform for our network marketing business to solve the one problem, like going back to the idea. And so again, your first question, how come you've done so many different businesses, is because these problems that people are having continue to pop up. And I'm like, that's a new business model. So like, that's why I'm going to move to that one, because it's valuable. So that's why I've jumped through a couple of different business episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was I was running now this really big downline of 2,500 people. And then I also had this software product in this business. I was the CEO of this company. So it was like, we had a full team, we have a dev guys. And so failure for me was I didn't set parameters for myself, because I was of the mentality of like Gary Vaynerchuk's, like work your face off, like hustle club of America, like let's go do it. And I was working 20 plus 22 hours a day, sleeping for 2 hours a day. I was living on coffee, water, and Taco Bell. Like that was my diet. I was getting way fat. Like my coach was Russell Brunson at the time. I was in his inner circle for the first 6 years, if you know who he is. And I was driving to one of the masterminds and I got this call and I just like, it broke me. Like I was so done. And I saw this tree on our way to this mastermind and I really, what if I just drove into it and ended my life? And so I burned out. That was probably my biggest and darkest place that I'd ever been in the business realm. And the lesson I learned was if you don't set parameters, if you don't put the things that are important in your life, that's why we build businesses in the first place. So like my other coach, Alex Sharfin, he was like, "Hey, what's important to you?" I said, "Well, business, my wife, and like some other things." And he goes, "Prove it. Open your calendar." I was like, "Oh shoot." And I opened my calendar and I didn't have my wife bucketed anywhere on my calendar. And she's like the most important person to me. And I was like, "Touche, coach. Like, I got you. I'm with it." So then we put on lunch every day and date night Saturday, non-negotiable. There, she's on my calendar and I'm good with it. So and that really helped me with parameters. And it was like, okay, now I'm not going to work past this time in the evening, no matter what. Like I got to have defrag time. I got to have sleep, got to make sure I'm hydrated and some of those other things. And so one of the biggest, darkest failures for me was not understanding parameters and completely failing to the point where I wanted to take my own life.
Wow. Hey man, I appreciate the transparency there. For so much I want to touch on really quick. How old are you, out of curiosity, right now?
42.
Okay. So I want to let you know you're not alone. Uh, I can empathize with my 30s, my track record in my 30s, my running through the 30s. I think I had 2 vacations in that 10-year decade. I wasn't quite doing 22-hour days. I won't say that, but it was bell to bell. I was grinding. Bell to bell was like sun up to sundown, and then another 4 after that. So I honor you for sharing that story. Number one. Number two, I'm glad you had the awakening. I'm glad you didn't hit the tree. That would have been the end of that. I'm glad that turned around. But we all go through it, right? Because we're chasing the success and the commitments, right? So here's the other side of it. My gut tells me you were committed to all the commitments, and you didn't want your integrity to let other people down. Which
100%.
you didn't sign up to write 22 hours a day, work 22 hours a day. You just ended up with more commitments and then your integrity required you to do those hours. I know exactly. I hope you're listening in this audience and you're understanding something. No one signs up to work 20. No one leaves their job or leaves corporate or says, "Hey, I'm just going to not work an 8-hour salary job so I can work 22 hours for myself." That's just a fallacy. But when you start a business and it grows and expands, and depending on what stage you're at, you end up with commitments and obligations that require certain extra things that are sort of outside the boundaries. But Sean, I'm glad I'm glad your coach asked you that question, because that question got posed to me by my coach. That's why when you did it, I had such a quick reaction.
Yeah.
2020, 2005, 2006, 2005, 2006, same question from my coach.
Yeah.
And I was running a mess. I'm so
100%.
glad you said it. But the key message there was putting boundaries, right? And I love what you said. If it's not on your calendar, it's not important, right? So you said your wife was important, but she's not. Date nights aren't there. You say your health and fitness is important, but your workout's not there. Your lunch isn't there. Your dinner's not there. People open up my calendar right now. They look and say, Darrell, why are you so busy? I'm like, oh, no, don't worry about half that belongs to me, right? Half
Hmm.
that belongs to me. My book writing time is on there. My workout time is on there. My lunch time is on there. My dinner with my family is on there. Everybody else has to fit around that. And so I
Yep.
love that you got that boundary perspective. Let's jump personal for a couple minutes. You're a cat dad. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's
Yeah.
up with the
Yeah. Yeah.
dogs, man? I'm a dog dude. So what's up
Well,
with the
I was a
cats?
dog guy my whole life. Like my parents had dogs, and I had dogs, and I walked them. And I had one dog specifically. Her name was Cassie, and I used to go running with her 5:30 in the morning, like 10 miles a day. And when I was in high school, I loved dogs. I still love dogs. But when I got into this online game, my wife and I had one desire was to travel. And so we started traveling like crazy. And one of the first reasons I came in the online space was to build a lifestyle business where I could work from anywhere. That was something that we both craved. And so she found the opportunity. I dove into it and built it. And then I freed her out of her dental office management job that she was running. And so then we were able to go travel the world based on working from anywhere out of a laptop. Little did I
Nice.
know I didn't have those parameters, so I still burned out, right? So it's one of those things. But come after we did a lot of overseas travel, we came back, and I was actually listening to Ty Lopez, if you know who he is. Very smart person, very great marketer. Some of the stuff he markets is questionable and suspect, but like his knowledge is really powerful and valuable. And so we were going through one of his sessions. It's called the 67 Steps program that he had, and I was just absorbing. And one of the lessons that he was sharing was, if you want 10% more happiness in your life, you should put an ulterior form of life in your life, non human. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So, dog, cat, bird, any lizard, whatever, snake. And so then we started thinking about what animal could we have that would still allow us the flexibility to travel. And we
Mm.
talked about a lot of different ones and lifespan and all this other stuff. And we settled on cats. Problem is, I'm hella allergic to cats. And so then we started doing all kinds of research. And what I found was that there's two types of cats. There's hair-based cats and there's fur-based cats. And I didn't know this until I'd done the research. And hair-based cats, you're allergic, or you get allergic reaction to the saliva in the cat. That it doesn't come from the hair. It comes when the cat licks their hair, or a dog licks their hair to clean themselves. The dander from their saliva sticks to the hair, and then you rub the hair and you put it in your eyes, and that's what makes it itchy. And
Mm.
so when I
Interesting.
learned this, I was like, oh, okay, cat hair and cats that have hair based have the dander problem that sticks on their hair. But fur based cats, dander doesn't stick to fur. So it doesn't matter if they lick their hair, the dander falls to the ground. And so I was like, cool, let's go prove the model, because that's the theory. I went to the nearest pet store and I was like, what are the hair based or the fur based cats that I can find? And we settled, there's like two brands. There's a Norwegian forest cat and there's a Maine Coon. And I was like, okay, well, Norwegian forest cats are like a little bit too big for me, a little bit too aggressive, but the Maine Coon is like the dog of the cat world, and they're fur based. I was like, this is a great test. And so I went and I found a little baby cat. And I picked it up and I just rubbed it in my face like this, like for like a minute.
Wow.
And I left the store and I sat in my car and I just waited to see if I got a reaction. And I didn't get a
Wow.
reaction. And I was
That's
like,
brave. That's brave.
yeah,
That's a brave
well,
split test right there, my friend.
yeah, it was. And I ended up not being allergic to them. So then we found a breeder and we ended up investing in these two giant Maine Coons. Our male cat is 30 pounds and our female cat's like
Oh,
23 pounds. So they're not small
wow.
cats. I take them
Yeah.
on leash on walks. I throw the little kitty cookies. They catch them in their mouth. Like they're really
Okay.
amazing creatures. And
That sounds
so,
fun.
yeah, so
That
that's
sounds
why
fun,
I'm
man.
a
Good
cat
for
guy.
you, man. I love it.
Yeah,
So that it's interesting. So the intentionality of saying, hey, what animal's gonna be okay with our lifestyle. I want to do one
yeah,
more personal thing, then jump back into business and give the people some little things to think about with regard to flow chat and DMs and what you
sure.
guys are building. For those that don't know, what you love playing disc golf. What is that?
So imagine regular golf where you have a stick and a ball and a hole. So you hit the ball into the hole. Disc golf is very similar rules, but you just throw the plastic disc into a basket. So it's not a hole, it's a basket, kind of sits about like this tall off the ground, like 5 feet or whatever. And you just, same thing, you have like a hole and you throw from a tee box and then you try to get the disc right into the bucket. That's it. So
Is it a free?
very
Is it
similar.
like a frisbee?
Yeah, it's a frisbee.
Oh,
They have different kinds of frisbees that they use. So
okay,
they have
okay.
there's basically like disc golf discs. They call them discs, and then there's like what they call lids or like a beach frisbee. And so the beach frisbee ones are usually used for ultimate frisbee as a game. Disc golf discs are a little bit smaller, more
Okay.
streamlined, and they fly a little bit differently. And so yeah, I mean, it's like, and then the different discs that you use have different attributes when you throw them. This one goes right, that one goes left, this one goes high, low, sort of thing. And so, it's just like a golf bag, you would assemble your disc golf or your discs in your bag, and
Hmm.
same concept. So yeah, and
Cool.
first time I played was in college, and I didn't think much of it because I was, I'd go out and have a drink and throw a disc and whatever's fun. And then like when COVID happened, my wife and I were like, what can we do that keeps us, distanced, but still gives us activity? And we both love to hike. Is perfect. You can go up and they have so many courses. There's thousands and thousands of disc golf courses, and 90% of them are free to play. So you can just grab
Wow.
a disc from Walmart. You can go find a disc. You just look up disc golf course near me, and I promise there will be at least five. Most
Wow.
states, anywhere. Yeah,
Very cool, man. Super cool. Super
yeah,
cool. Hey, listen, I want to jump back into something on the business side and
sure.
then dive into the problem that you guys are solving at FlowChat. But I want to talk something. You said earlier about the lost art of prospecting.
Hmm.
Me having to come from a sales background in my 20s, getting started in real estate sales and starting my first business when I was 20, and then moving into financial service sales, which is financial service industry and financial service products. I came to understand the difference between a prospect and a lead. And even if in some text you would say a suspect, a prospect, and then a lead, and then you can move towards the different stages of where they sit in the lead. But you brought up this topic of lost art of prospecting. From your perspective, talk about prospecting and talk about this concept of the lost art.
Well, so great question, and I love that you asked me about it. But if you think about what makes a business grow, is when somebody gives you a credit card and you make money, and now you can invest money to solve their problem, and you can invest that money to build your business. If you don't have that constant flow of cash flow, meaning if you don't have opportunities consistent flowing into your business, it's probably not going to grow that fast, right? Just very, very simple logic. And so when it comes to the lost art of prospecting, I believe most entrepreneurs don't prospect because they think it's something that's not really necessary right now because they usually, I got to go do this or I got to go do that. And they prioritize other things on top of prospecting, usually because they don't want to do it. And I agree
Mm,
with you in or them saying, you know what, prospecting is, most people don't understand this, but it's one of the most high value things you can ever put in a business, but it's one of the lowest skill things that are necessary in a business. And when you have an entrepreneur like you or me or someone listening to this, when they go to a task that's extremely high value but low skill, they get bored and they don't do it. That's it. I believe most entrepreneurs don't prospect because it's boring for them. And so this is why I said, hey, if you can figure out a way to systemize this, and then you can put lower skill labor into the process, you could still leave the high value, low skill set thing in there, and you build a system around that, and you have a team member to go run the system. Now your business will consistently grow forever.
ooh, ooh, ooh. So, is that the problem that you're solving with
That is the
FlowChat?
problem that I solve right now. Yes,
All right, then let's
100%.
keep it going. Let's keep the conversation rolling in. How about that? Let me just give you, I love what you said. So it's a high value, low skill set, and you feel like entrepreneurs don't do it because it's boring.
For
And is
them,
that because
because they
they'd
would rather
rather
do
do the
anything else.
technical work?
They'd rather go build the widget. They'd rather go do fulfillment or delivery services. They'd rather,
Right.
wrench on building infrastructure inside of their business or creating a new product, or things are just more exciting for them. And so the lost art of prospecting is just simply that, is like they just lost it. They just decided not to do it because and everybody knows it's like your business doesn't grow unless you have prospects you can sell to. And
Right.
so, and then people are like, oh, well, I'll just ask my, referrals. I'll build a referral tree. Okay, cool. That works. And
Right.
usually then it runs out. People are
Well,
like,
yeah.
okay, well, I'll just try posting on social. Or like, oh, that's cool. But then like you get 3 people that like your post and they
Yeah, the
click it one
algorithm.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the algorithm.
So that's why you need to systemize it. And I always believe that the speed of any business is dictated by the capacity of their systems. So if you have that referral system or you have that organic system, it's not a robust system. It's not going to consistently and predictably grow a business. Whereas if you have something like FlowChat or something similar, you don't have to have FlowChat. We did it off spreadsheets for years and made tens of millions doing it that way, which is free. But again, FlowChat just amplifies and accelerates that whole process. And then it's a system, very robust. And then you can learn it yourself and then put the team member in there to actually run the system for you. And then you just manage it. And that's really where I start to think about, like, if you're going to scale a business, the speed of that business is dictated by the capacity of your systems. So if you have a terrible system, it's not going to grow. It's not going to go fast. If you have a really amazing system and it's tuned, now you can grow, right?
Got it. Okay, let's do this. I want to define a couple terms here that someone listening to this after they, if they want to check out more about this before they get caught up in the jargon, I want to give you a couple of thoughts here. How do you define social selling?
Social selling is oh man, that's a really great question. I would just say the way I look at it is social media. So I'm talking about social media specifically, all the social media platforms. I think of social media as one big bucket, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever platform you're on. It's just one big bucket of those suspects. And everybody's in that bucket. And our job is to go and find the veins of where the people are that actually have the problem that we solve. And that's the big think work. That's the prospecting work that the high end CEO or entrepreneur needs to be doing. Because when you find that vein of gold, if we'll call it that, then you just put your system and your team to mine the gold out of that kind of little area. So social selling to me is looking at social media as a whole, finding the pockets of people that have the problem that you solve, and then going and serving them, because to sell is to love to them. To solve that problem is loving on them. And this is where sales becomes, I think, the lifeblood of every business, right? So.
Nice, nice. Okay, let's talk about FlowChat. What is it? What does it do?
Mhm.
And who's using it and how? I mean, what are the use cases that they're using it in?
Perfect. Perfect. So FlowChat is a systematic way to connect with people on social and close deals through personal DMs. We're the personal direct message guys. That's where we've cut our teeth, and it works across every platform. It's a one-to-one communication system, but you can do it at scale. FlowChat was designed and built off 3 principles, and the 3 principles are very simple. Number one is having this ability to import that little vein of gold, those exact prospects, in one click from wherever they're at socially. So you can import universally from 13 different social media platforms. So as an example, let's say an influencer or a thought leader in your niche makes a post, and all of your clients go and like that post, or they go and comment on that post. Well, our tech will allow you to go right to that post, click one button, and import all the people that have reacted or commented on that post and bring them into a system where you can manage them systematically all the way through to get conversation booked or get them to go to a website or whatever. So that's number one. Number two is what we call pipeline view. So anybody listening, if you're familiar with a Trello board, where you have different stages in Trello boards, and inside each stage you have little cards, and the objective is to move the cards from left to right to the desired outcome. We built this version of a Trello board for direct messenger specifically and added some crazy bells and whistles, and we dropped it into the industry. And then all of our competitors copied us, which gave us validation. Like, this is absolutely what people need and want, and it's solving a big problem. So that's the second piece. So universally import into a pipeline where you have cards, and then each stage you store a unique message. You just click and shoot and move cards along instead of having to copy and paste off a script or whatever else you're doing, right? So straight replacement there. And then the last part is when people are prospecting, the hardest thing to do is report. How do I pull reports that allow you to do different things. Like, for example, I don't know if this messaging sequence is a great system. I want to optimize it. I want to make it better. Right? As an entrepreneur, we should always be focused on kaizen, or the art of continuous improvement. And so if we have a messaging sequence, there you go. Yeah. Oh, it's like if you have a step-by-step system with a messaging sequence, like you can click one button and look at a report that says, what's the efficacy or the percentage of people that joined my Facebook group? And then from the Facebook group, how many people booked a call? And then of those people that booked a call, how many people bought a thing from me? And then you can look at, on ours, you can actually track the timeline of how long it took somebody to move through the flow. So not only can you optimize the word and messaging, but you can also figure out, like, this one pipeline flow that I'm running closes deals in 20 days. Like for us, it was 20.46 days in December. We made some changes. Now it's 12 days in January. So it's like, oh my gosh, like the numbers are crazy. Like you can actually optimize that. So the FlowChat was just built off those three simple principles. And then everything else after that has been designed by, hey, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that. And so we listen to our audience and they say, put this in, and then boom. This is the year now of automation and AI. We have some things that are really unique. So we have automation in some of this process, a lot of this process, but we also have something called AI generative assistant. So when you're in a messenger conversation in the environment, say you're like on Facebook Messenger and somebody has chatted with you a little bit, and you're like, what the heck do I say to move this conversation forward because I don't know what to say? Now you can just click a button and our system will reread your whole conversation and say this, boom. And you can just paste and it's done. So,
and you know what, I remember you telling me that when we first met. And that's a huge feature. I got three real quick questions. I know we're almost out of time. Let me do this. I want to ask, how does FlowChat work with today's CRMs? Obviously, we're a HubSpot agency partner. Obviously, HubSpot CRM is the base of a lot of our clients. How does it work with tools like High Level or Pipedrive and some of the other CRMs that everybody's... One of my beefs, Sean, has been over the years is this whole idea of, by the way, I grew up in one-to-one communications offline, but scaling one-to-one communications on multiple social platforms always been a nightmare, always been a disaster. Talk to me about how it interplays and interacts with CRMs and how you guys have thought about that.
yeah, 100%. So we have an open API and we have webhook pulls and calls. So for those people who are programmers,
they're not. You got to break that. What the hell is
yeah,
a
I was gonna say,
webhook?
for
They're
those
not.
people that, yeah, for those people that are programmers, you understand what that means, and then for those that are not, you laughed because I think you're right. So,
I know my audience.
yeah, so imagine, imagine this: is let's say you have a pipeline in FlowChat that has like, initial outreach, and then it has like call booked, and it has like purchased. If you had three stages in there, what we can do with APIs and webhooks is when you move a card in FlowChat to like call booked in your CRM in HubSpot, if you have a similar pipeline set up, it will actually automatically move the card for you. So that's
So
one thing that can also,
some syncing.
yeah.
There.
So it's like synchronized there.
Yep.
The other thing that's interesting is with HubSpot. I love HubSpot; it's one of the best ever. Is they have the call booking and the rotation stuff. So you can create a call booking link and have the whole sales team in there. And you can put that call booking link inside your FlowChat pipeline. So this is how we've done it for a long time, is you start the conversational flow in FlowChat, boom, 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 boom. You drop the booking link, which comes from your HubSpot. People click that link and book a time on your calendar. And that's a trigger over in your CRM to actually create the card and then start any automations with emails and text or anything else thereafter. So there's that. We can also connect through Zapier or make.com or one of those other tools where you can trigger different things based on what you're trying to accomplish. So we've given a lot of thought to this. We connect to over 3,000 of them. We use High Level ourselves just because HubSpot wasn't the right fit at the time. Not to say that won't change anytime soon, but
it makes sense. I got one more question, and man, there's so much more, and we've got some more tools and resources for them to get more information. But I want to ask this question just for the person who's sitting there: how many people in an organization need to be assigned to manage? So, we got a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, 81% of entrepreneurs, 81% of small businesses, specifically here in the United States, have no employees, right? So only 19% even have an employee on the team or a team member. So how do you see, or is this appropriate? Is this an appropriate solution for a sole practitioner or a firm that has a smaller number of team members? I guess what I'm trying to say is what kind of bandwidth of human capital is needed to participate in the FlowChat system? What's reasonable? What have you
So
seen?
yeah. So if you're a solopreneur, first of all, let's talk about time. 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week. Okay, so you need to bucket 2 hours a day if you're a solopreneur, and then you just need our software. And of that 2 hours a day, what are we doing? So the first 20, 30 minutes, we're going to the social media platform of our choice, and we're finding that vein of where the people are we serve. And we're going to click a button, and we're going to import those people into the pipeline. Then we have a quick qualification process that can be done automatically. And then we're going to click an automation that starts friend requesting and sending messages out to those people automatically. Right. And then you can go about your day. So the first 20, 30 minutes, you just click that button, you let it play. When it's done, it'll already have started your outreach if you're going outbound, right? There's other ways if you come inbound with traffic coming inbound, and then what happens is the rest of your pipeline will be full. And so your job is just to go through the cards. And we have a little blinking red dot that when somebody replies to you, you can see exactly who it is. You just click on that one and you can go reply to them. And it's so organized and efficient. And so the next hour and a half is just simply moving people through the rest of that pipeline and then booking the calls that are necessary to like grow your business. And so when
Mm-hmm.
Chris and I first started FlowChat, and there's three partners. There's our CTO Bruno, he's the tech wizard, and then Chris and I have built multiple businesses together now for 8 years. When we started FlowChat, we had just the three of us. We had our tech guy who built the thing, and he was out of it, and then it was just me and Chris, and we had to go generate opportunity. And so we started with no group, no list, no anything, just the software and me and his time because we were partners. And we did over $100,000 in our first 40 days from scratch, just to prove that you don't need a team if you have this one tech. And if you don't even have a HubSpot, it can work as your first sole and only
Right.
software that you need to like rip it. But I do believe that as you grow, now we offload part of the system. So if we're doing that find, connect, fill, engage kind of activity, low skill, high value, what we'll do is we'll hire a virtual assistant from the Philippines or wherever, and they have black and white SOPs, and they just start doing that first part. And then
Yep.
now your time goes from 2 hours down to about an hour a day where you're just responding to the people that have, been outreach to or whatever.
Yeah.
And then eventually you hire a setter team to put them in there. So you have the virtual assistant doing the find, fill, engage, qualify, connect. Then you have the setters who are going to book the call, and you're still taking the sales calls, and then eventually hire a sales team. And now you've set yourself out of the system and you can elevate to the owner's box of your business. And that's the idea, because when you get to the owner's box, you can oversee the system that's doing your prospecting and your kind of pre-sales work and your sales systems. And then now you're just focused on delivery and fulfillment and retaining clients later.
Yeah, yeah. Sean, I appreciate it, man. There's so much to discuss, so much more we could cover. I know we're about out of time today,
Yeah,
but
man.
let's do this. Where can our listeners get more insight, detail,
Mm-hmm.
pricing? I know you guys just put up a brand new uh,
Training class. Yeah.
webinar
Yeah. We got
training
a training
class.
class. Yep.
Exactly. Where can people learn more?
So thank you for asking. You guys can just come find me, just Sean Malone on socials. You'll find me. Just look for me. I've got a picture of myself with kind of a bigger beard and then like a purple thing behind me. So look for that if you want to come find that. But I think the easier way to do it is if you're more interested in like learning about the tech. There'll be a link below this in the show notes. If you just click that link, it'll take you over to this training that I recently did that just kind of shows you exactly, if you have a Facebook group as an example, this training is for you. It's really like, here's how you would monetize a Facebook group at scale. And so if that's interesting to you and you want to like learn that, then that training will be perfect and it's free. Just click the link below and pop over there and watch it. It's right now it's about an hour and 15 minutes long. I'm working on shortening that, but it's really in depth and it gives you a lot of great tools. Whether you get our product or you don't, like it still gives you enough to say, yeah, oh my gosh, like I'm going to do this because it's very tangible and very easy to accomplish. So,
All right, Sean, man, listen. Full disclosure to the listening audience, Sean and I met using his tool,
yeah.
and he'll tell you because I get a gazillion outbound messages from LinkedIn, email, all over the place, and it's annoying. However, him and I engaged with his tool the way he just described it, and it was human. It was human like. It was not icky. It was not crappy. It was not in your face. It was not pushy. It was, in fact, I don't know if you remember, Sean. I said something like, "Is this you or a bot?" or something like that. I think I asked you,
Yeah.
and then we ended up getting a call. So I personally am endorsing out loud because I am telling you, I get pitched a lot of stuff. I'm endorsing the flow and the methodology and the thought process because there's so many tools out here that all they do is tell you to just go LinkedIn, connect people, and then hit them up with your 3-part email sequence. And the person's not even on the LinkedIn that long, right? So all I'm saying, everybody, is listen, I have made a conscious decision this year to make sure that I only introduce entrepreneurs and founders tools, products, and services that I personally endorse. It's not to say that if I haven't endorsed that particular product in the past, I'm just saying this should be very intentional about bringing you the resources I think you need, that I've heard that you need, that the studies say that you need. See, many of you come to my agency and you're not ready for an agency to come in at 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 a month to take over your marketing department. But when you look at what Sean and his team have done to build a product that's just a few $100s a month to get started and can literally be the thing that helps prospect and grow your pipeline, which many of you are telling me that you're struggling with. Yeah, I think it's important that you take a look at what Sean and his team are doing. Sean, last words. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your journey, 8 businesses, all the things. As much as you don't want to go back and live it, I appreciate you getting out of balance so you could find balance. And I appreciate the work you're doing as an entrepreneur to serve this community of entrepreneurs. Last and final words.
Yeah, I would just say again, I've trained over 5,000 salespeople. I've been through the ringer and back, and then through it again and back again. And if you guys are listening to Darrell and you're on the fence of getting started with him or not, like I would number one encourage you to do that again. Same with me. I don't go on shows unless I can endorse the other person. And I know Darrell's background and I know what he's capable of accomplishing. The dude's a stud. Just say yes and go, right? Like that's the move. Like stop thinking it through and just do it, right? Like
appreciate that, brother.
So there's that piece. I would also say, like you're right. I mean, I think the man, keep doing what you're doing, man, because I think there needs to be voices like yours and mine in this world, and we need to continue cheering and supporting and loving the people that we serve and getting them big ass results, because results are what talk. And when you get people good results, they never leave and they get happy because they can finally build the lifestyle that they're in, the business that they're looking to build.
You said something at the beginning. I think it'll be the nice way to take us home. There were 3 big things that people got to get right: conviction that what they have is going to change someone's life, that's going to be a benefit in the marketplace. Number 2 was consistency.
You got to have at bats in order to grow. Yep.
We call it in MindShift, do the reps. You got to get the reps in. And step 3 was persistence.
Right? If you get knocked down, but you can see up, you better get up, because guess what? Somebody's desperately begging to hear what you have to say, and they're looking for your solution. It's your moral obligation and your duty to reach out to those people.
I love it. Sean, look forward to our continued association, my friend. If you're listening to this show right now, do me a favor. Take a look at this software, take a look at this tool, see where it fits in. Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't fit. But don't let a couple $100 piece of software stop you from improving what Sean described as the lost art of prospecting. There's so many ways to grow a business. No one has one solution that fits everyone. My solution is great for some. Sean's solution is great for others. Other solutions out there are great for those as well. But let's make this the year you get serious about building a consistent pipeline, right? Get convicted, get consistent, and stay persistent, okay? This is Darrell Evans, your host of MindShift Podcast. Wherever you're listening to this show right now, if you've enjoyed today's show and know someone who might benefit from it, be sure to forward the link wherever you're listening to this right now. Leave us a review on Apple. If you happen to be listening there, let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to hear more of, and be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. If you want to connect with me, you can find me on every social platform at Mr. Darrell Evans. Until next time, I'll see you on another episode of the MindShift Podcast. Take care. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.